It turns out that just a moment ago, Zhang Yi, after figuring things out, suddenly stood up, seeing the serious look on his face. Everyone was at a loss for what to do. Even Wawa could sense the change in Zhang Yi's demeanor. At this moment, Xu Chunlei was the first to ask, "Boss, why do you look so serious? Is there something dangerous?" Zhang Yi reassured him, saying, "No worries, I just need to discuss some things with the investigation squad. You guys should keep eating and drinking. Don't mind me." However, after hearing this, Liang Yu stood up immediately. He insisted on going with Zhang Yi, believing that having more people meant more safety. Then Uncle and Xu Chunlei also volunteered. Although they didn't know what exactly Zhang Yi was up to, they couldn't just let him handle everything on his own. So, they also expressed their desire to go with him. But Zhang Yi waved his hand at them. It wasn't that he didn't want to take them. It was just that the fewer people involved, the better this time. So, Zhang Yi politely declined their good intentions. Afterward, he drove to call Xing Tian, who was far away in Qingpu. Xing Tian, upon learning that Zhang Yi was coming, naturally had no objections and even felt a sense of admiration for him. After all, Zhang Yi could be considered the king of Tianhai City, right? Next, Zhang Yi contacted Bai Li Chongqing, who also treated him with extreme caution. At the same time, Bai Li subtly hinted that they could work together in the future, as Blizzard City also needed fresh blood. But Zhang Yi, hearing this, smirked slightly, because this was exactly what he had been waiting for. So Zhang Yi, with a sarcastic tone, said, "By logic, when your team leader sacrificed themselves, shouldn't you have replaced them with a new leader, like Li Ying?" Upon hearing this, Bai Li Chongqing's face stiffened slightly, and he awkwardly smiled, without directly answering Zhang Yi's question. Instead, he said nervously, "Let's talk more when you get here." Zhang Yi pretended to be angry and hung up the phone. On the other side, Bai Li Chongqing wore a worried expression. It wasn't that he feared Zhang Yi. In fact, from the very beginning, he had hoped that Zhang Yi could join their team. After all, Zhang Yi was clever and reliable in his work. Moreover, his abilities could help them in many ways. However, now that Bai Li had absorbed the essence of the original space liquid, if Zhang Yi joined the team now, it might challenge his position as the leader. This was what troubled Bai Li the most, because according to the rules of the Jiangnan district, after team leader Bian Jun's sacrifice, Bai Li Chongqing was the first in line to take over as team leader. So, when he heard Zhang Yi's icy tone, he realized that Zhang Yi also had big ambitions. Because of this, Bai Li sighed deeply, uncertain whether he should let Zhang Yi join their team. But if Zhang Yi didn't join, how would they make up for the loss of Bian Jun? If the situation continued like this, their squad might no longer be considered elite. If that were to happen, their treatment could be downgraded or even revoked, since everything in Blizzard City was based on performance. As Bai Li was lost in these thoughts, he unknowingly walked into the room where Invincible was resting. Seeing his gloomy expression, everyone asked what was bothering him. After thinking for a moment, Bai Li told them about Zhang Yi's intentions. He said that Zhang Yi wanted to join Blizzard City, but he also wanted to be the team leader. Upon hearing this, the others reacted differently. Some mocked Zhang Yi for overestimating himself, while others remained silent, as if they thought Zhang Yi might actually have a chance at competing for the leader position. After all, even a 3-year-old knew that he had absorbed the essence of the original space liquid. Who knew how strong Zhang Yi was now? At this point, Bai Li Chongqing raised his trembling hands and said, "Actually, I don't think Zhang Yi's idea is wrong. Everyone wants to climb higher. And he did play the biggest role in this mission. So it's understandable that he wants to compete. But he hasn't worked with us before. After all, being a team leader requires more than just strength. Charisma is also a very important factor." However, before Bai Li could finish, Invincible cut him off, fuming. "Who does Zhang Yi think he is? A newcomer wanting to command us? Ridiculous. If he really becomes the leader, I'll be the first to lead the squad." After Invincible's outburst, Kong Sheng also frowned and asked, "Did Zhang Yi really say that? This guy really doesn't take us seriously, does he?" Then Qi Guangming bluntly stated, "In my mind, there's only one person qualified to be the leader, and that's Uncle Bai Li. Even if Zhang Yi has extraordinary abilities, he still has to follow the rules." Seeing this, Bai Li Chongqing breathed a sigh of relief, then smiled and waved his hand. "Who becomes the leader is not up to us. It depends on the district's decision. As long as our squad can develop better in the future, it doesn't matter if I'm the leader or not. So, I hope everyone can stay calm. Let's wait until Zhang Yi gets here, and then we'll see what his attitude is." It turns out that just a moment ago, Zhang Yi drove to the Qingpu base. Xing Tian, to show his respect, organized the entire base to hold a grand welcoming ceremony for Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, seeing the formality of the event, was a bit overwhelmed. He didn't expect Xing Tian to go all out like this. However, Out of caution, he casually asked, "Are all these people here to greet me?" Xing Tian paused for a moment, because he caught the meaning behind Zhang Yi's words. Then he burst into laughter, saying, "Zhang Yi, we've known each other for so many years. Yet your cautious nature hasn't changed a bit." He then strolled over to Zhang Yi's side. "You can rest easy. Even if you gave me 200 guts, I wouldn't dare make a move against you." Then he boldly speculated, "Could it be that your strength is now on par with Yuan Kong Yi?" Zhang Yi was taken aback and said, "You're oversimplifying things. I'm far from reaching that level." Although Zhang Yi knew Xing Tian might not believe him, he didn't want to reveal his strength and attract too much attention from the district. So Zhang Yi quickly changed the subject, saying that Xing Tian should take him to meet the investigation team, as the purpose of Zhang Yi's visit was to meet with them face to face. Upon hearing this, Xing Tian immediately cleared a path for Zhang Yi, and personally escorted him to the investigation team's quarters. However, during this time, Xing Tian couldn't stop talking. He suggested that Zhang Yi should consolidate the various forces in Tianhai City and crown himself king. He also hinted that Zhang Yi should take care of him in the future. Zhang Yi only responded with a faint smile, as the idea of becoming king was impossible for him. Zhang Yi despised trouble, so he would never do something that would be more effort than it was worth. Soon, the two arrived at the investigation team's recovery area. Xing Tian announced that the people were inside, then tactfully left. However, when Zhang Yi pushed open the door, his presence immediately made the atmosphere tense. All the squad members were sizing him up, some even with a hint of hostility in their eyes. Then, Invincible was the first to break the silence. He glared fiercely at Zhang Yi and asked, "What are you doing here?" Zhang Yi looked at Invincible, silently mocking him in his mind. How is this kid's hair already white, yet he's still so hostile towards me? Is he jealous of how handsome I am? Then, with his hands behind his back, Zhang Yi assumed the demeanor of a leader inspecting his troops, saying, "The mission in Tianhai City is done. I came to check on the injured. Is that not allowed? After all, we'll be working together soon. If I didn't come, some might say I don't care about my teammates." This so-called concern for teammates made everyone in the investigation team frown slightly. Although some of them welcomed the idea of Zhang Yi joining, that didn't mean they were willing to accept someone so arrogant. So, after Zhang Yi said this, Invincible's short temper flared up. He pointed at Zhang Yi's nose and angrily scolded, "What are you trying to pull in front of us? Do you really think you're qualified to join our investigation team?" At this moment, Zhang Yi's eyes remained calm, with an air of superiority. He then silenced Invincible with just one sentence, "I defeated the witch Yuan Kong Yi. Now, do you think I'm qualified?" Hearing this, Invincible turned his head away, knowing he owed Zhang Yi a favor for that, so he couldn't argue back. Zhang Yi then glanced around the room at everyone. Seeing no one respond, a satisfied smile crept across his face. "If none of you have any objections, please relay my achievements to Blizzard City so they can acknowledge my contributions. Also, I'm sorry about Bian Junwu's sacrifice, but I will carry on his will and continue to protect this land, so that the people of the Jiangnan district can live happy and prosperous lives." At this point, Zhang Yi was completely reveling in his success. Even those who had a favorable opinion of him lost their respect in this moment. Then, Bai Li Chongqing stepped in to interrupt Zhang Yi, unable to tolerate it any longer. However, he forced a smile and said, "Don't worry, we won't forget your contributions. But joining Blizzard City requires approval from the higher-ups." Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi laughed heartily. I understand. The proper procedures must still be followed." Then, Zhang Yi threw his arm around Bai Li Chongqing, saying, "Brother Bai Li, let's step outside for a chat. There are some things the regular members shouldn't hear." As he said this, he shot a glance at the others in the room. This move fully ignited everyone's hatred toward Zhang Yi. Looking at them, it was clear they were all gritting their teeth in anger. If it weren't for Zhang Yi's strength, they probably would have ganged up on him right there. Bai Li Chongqing took a deep look at Zhang Yi, curious to see what game he was playing. Then, the two left the room with their arms around each other's shoulders. Just a few minutes ago, after Zhang Yi and Bai Li Chongqing left the room, the place erupted. Even Meng Xiyu couldn't stand Zhang Yi's arrogance. "If he really joins our team, even if he's not the leader, I'll apply to transfer to another squad." Everyone knew that Meng Xiyu was just venting, as it wasn't that easy to change squads since the team configurations were decided by the higher-ups. As a result, the atmosphere in the room became even more tense. On the other side, Zhang Yi and Bai Li Chongqing arrived in an empty room, and Zhang Yi dropped his arrogant facade. He then asked with sharp eyes, "Brother Bai Li, do you support me becoming the leader?" Upon hearing this, a flash of hesitation crossed Bai Li Chongqing's eyes. "Brother Zhang, what are you talking about? You've made great contributions to Blizzard City. You don't need my support, the district will definitely choose you. Zhang Yi nodded. You're right, as long as you all report everything that happened in Tianhai City truthfully. I'm sure they'll assign me as the leader. However, Bai Li Chongqing cautioned Zhang Yi that he might be a bit too optimistic. When the district chooses a leader, it's not as simple as you think. It's not just about who contributed the most. He then smiled sheepishly. I'm not saying this because I'm afraid of you becoming the leader. I'm just worried that your expectations might be too high. And if things don't go your way, what will you do then? Consider this a precautionary reminder. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. Well then, I'll leave it to you to take care of this. Brother Bai Li, put in a good word for me when the time comes. At this point, Bai Li Chongqing stared at Zhang Yi for a long time and asked. Zhang Yi, can you give me a straight answer? Just how strong are you now? Zhang Yi responded without hesitation. I'm stronger than the former Bian Jun Five Finger. He didn't give Bai Li Chongqing a chance to speak further before revealing this secret. Upon hearing this, Bai Li Chongqing clenched his fist. Realizing the truth, you've probably advanced to the level of Ipuxalong by now, haven't you? But Zhang Yi shook his head. I don't think I've reached that level yet. At most, I've got one foot in the door. The more Bai Li Chongqing listened, the more shocked he became, because Zhang Yi seemed extremely confident, not like someone bluffing. So, when he thought about competing with Zhang Yi for the leader position, he knew he was no match. However, at that moment, Zhang Yi's lips curled into a meaningful smile, because he noticed that Bai Li Chongqing was considering giving up. So Zhang Yi asked directly, Brother Bai Li, aren't you going to fight for the position? Bai Li Chongqing was caught off guard by the question, unsure of why Zhang Yi would say such a thing. But Zhang Yi waved his hand and said, Come on, brother, don't pretend with me. Do you really not want to be the leader yourself? Bai Li Chongqing could only smile helplessly and admit, I'll confess, I did have that thought before. But the squad needs a strong leader. And you're more qualified than I am. But then, Zhang Yi said something unexpected. Actually, there's still a chance for you. After all, when Yuan Kong Yi died, strictly speaking, I wasn't the one who made the biggest contribution. It was thanks to your investigation team. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to kill him. Upon hearing this, Bai Li Chongqing was stunned. He couldn't understand why Zhang Yi was saying this. But Zhang Yi quickly explained. Yuan Kong Yi was killed by the side effects of the squad's abilities. And if it weren't for your coordination and efforts, the Baishui cult would have already invaded Tianhai City. So, in the grand scheme of things, your squad deserves the most credit. At this moment, Bai Li Chongqing was completely shocked. He hadn't expected Zhang Yi to not claim credit for himself, but instead hand it over to someone else. It was well known that the rewards for this mission were substantial. Resources, women, and honor in Blizzard City were all within his reach. Yet Zhang Yi casually gave it up. When things seem too unusual, there's always a reason. But soon, Bai Li Chongqing figured out Zhang Yi's true intention. Zhang Yi, don't tell me you don't want to go to Blizzard City. Zhang Yi's smile deepened. It's truly a pleasure dealing with smart people. You're right, I don't want to go. Though surprised, Bai Li Chongqing understood. After all, he had seen Zhang Yi's sanctuary, and that place wasn't inferior to a palace. He then thoughtfully said, So, you've come to me because you want me to help hide the truth about this incident. To avoid being summoned by the Zhongnan district for commendation, Zhang Yi didn't directly admit it, but instead gave a playful smile and said, I'm not opposed to going to Blizzard City. In fact, I find it quite tempting. But seeing you all fighting so hard makes me hesitant. So after thinking it over, I've decided to avoid going if I can. However, Zhang Yi's expression grew serious. But, Brother Bai Li, I have to make something clear. If I can't avoid it in the end, I will take the position of leader. Bai Li Chongqing fell into deep thought. He knew Zhang Yi was indirectly threatening him but also offering him an opportunity. After all, Bai Li's strength was far from Zhang Yi's level now. Zhang Yi then patted Bai Li Chongqing on the shoulder and said, I've always been bad at making decisions, so I'll leave this choice to you. The meaning behind his words was clear. A man of dignity cannot remain subordinate forever. So Zhang Yi was telling him, will you choose to be the leader of the investigation team, or remain the deputy leader? Just moments ago, Zhang Yi had already spoken clearly enough, and Bai Li Chongqing was indeed tempted. After all, the difference in treatment between a captain and a deputy captain was significant. But the thought of concealing information about Zhang Yi made Bai Li Chongqing's face turn cold. Zhang Yi noticed his concern, but fortunately, he had prepared a solution beforehand. So Zhang Yi directly shared his plan with Bai Li Chongqing. He suggested that Bai Li could report everything that had happened in Tianhai City truthfully, but only the facts that he had personally witnessed. For instance, how Yuan Kong Yi died and Zhang Yi's current strength didn't need to be detailed. After all, they hadn't witnessed those events firsthand. But Bai Li Chongqing still shook his head, saying that logically, such things could be inferred. Before he could finish, Zhang Yi interrupted him, saying, "You can't rely on inference. Everything must be backed by evidence. Right? So, not mentioning certain things doesn't count as withholding information." At this point, Bai Li Chongqing was almost dizzy from Zhang Yi's logic. But after thinking it over, it made some sense. Even so, he still had to give the district an explanation, as someone had to be credited for the achievement. Zhang Yi waved his hand and said, "I've already thought of a solution for that. To be honest, the one who deserves the most credit is the squad leader. Without him, how could a few of us have possibly dealt with Yuan Kongyi? After all, we all witnessed one thing together. Yuan Kongyi fell into the side effects of the squad's abilities. Without that, how could we have drained his powers and caused him to die from his own abilities?" At this moment, Bai Li Chongqing took a deep breath, realizing that Zhang Yi wasn't just a warehouse manager, but more like a director. As everything he planned was seamless, Zhang Yi chuckled and said, "All right, you don't need to flatter me. I've told you everything I need to. As for your final choice, that's beyond my control." Zhang Yi then took out the original squad leader's handgun from his space and handed it to Bai Li Chongqing, saying it should be returned to its rightful owner. He also asked about the matter of getting an origin bullet. Bai Li Chongqing sighed when he saw the squad leader's gun, mourning the loss of an old friend. Then he seriously said, "As for the origin bullet, don't even think about it. It's a strategic resource in Blizzard City, and it won't be given to you." Zhang Yi smiled slyly and replied, "There's always an exception, isn't there? Can't we negotiate?" Bai Li Chongqing rolled his eyes and said, "If you really want an origin bullet, there's only one way. Join Blizzard City and become one of us. Otherwise, there's no chance." Seeing that Bai Li Chongqing had nothing more to say, Zhang Yi knew that he had accepted his plan. Zhang Yi then handed the gun back to him, saying, "I'm not going to sacrifice my future for a single bullet." As Zhang Yi was about to leave the room, Bai Li Chongqing suddenly called out, "Zhang Yi, we live in a chaotic world. You could achieve great things. With your current strength, are you really willing to hide away?" Without turning around, Zhang Yi replied, "I'm not interested. We have different paths." He continued, "I hope this is the last time we meet. Because if we meet again, something must have gone wrong." After leaving the room, Zhang Yi found Xing Tian. He planned to say goodbye and return to the sanctuary. But Xing Tian was overly enthusiastic, insisting that Zhang Yi stay for a meal before leaving. But Zhang Yi knew exactly what Xing Tian was thinking, so he patted him on the shoulder and said, "Enough with this. If you ever face real trouble, I'll help you. But from now on, you and your men must follow my lead. Understood?" Xing Tian readily agreed, and Zhang Yi couldn't help but give him a once-over. "You really are something, giving up your power so easily." Xing Tian, however, didn't care, laughing and saying, "Power is useful, but I was never born to be a leader. I care more about living well." Zhang Yi took a deep breath and agreed with him. However, he knew the world was unpredictable, and silently hoped for peace to last. At the same time, he understood the significance of Blizzard City. Only when one's strength reached a certain level could they deter the petty threats from the surrounding areas. At this moment, inside the cabin, there is a woman who looks like a witch, writing something on a scroll. Her focused expression suggests that this is an extremely important matter. Beside her, there is a man kneeling before her. The reason for his kneeling is because the woman can calculate people's fortunes. The man wants to know his fortune for the day. As the woman tells him his fortune is favorable, the man nods in satisfaction, saying, not bad. With this fortune, I believe we'll soon reach the Shenzhou continent." Then, the man turns to another crew member and asks, "Grand Duke Wei, how far do we have to go?" The man addressed as Grand Duke Wei is engrossed in a book and responds without even lifting his head, "At our current speed, we'll reach the destination in 3 more days." Upon hearing this, the man's smile becomes even more sinister. 3 days? The waiting is always the hardest part. But once I set foot on the land called Shenzhou, I will write my own legendary story. On the other side, after reaching an agreement with Zhang Yi, Bai Li Chongqing leads his team back to Blizzard City. This place used to be a super military fortress, heavily funded by Wagwo, and was hailed as the last 6 lines of defense for the country. The gates of the city walls alone are 50 to 60 meters high, with a tower every 3 meters. The anti-aircraft guns inside these towers can shred any living thing instantly, making this place a highly fortified military fortress. After Bai Li Chongqing's return, a few traveling doctors from the district were dispatched immediately. "Please follow me," they said. "I'll take you to the disinfection area for a quick checkup." But just as they finished the checkup, an unexpected figure appeared at the door, a young girl with an extraordinary status. The personal secretary of the district's supreme commander, Zhu Zheng. She had come specifically to escort Bai Li Chongqing to meet the commander. As per the usual protocol, Every time a reconnaissance team completes their mission, they must report to Zhu Zheng in person. However, due to the situation with Army 5, the district is paying extra attention, and that's why the personal secretary was sent for the reception. Soon, Bai Li Chongqing was led by the secretary to Zhu Zheng's office, while the others waited outside, not qualified to meet the commander. Bai Li Chongqing was actually very nervous at this moment, as it was his first time facing the supreme commander alone. Moreover, he felt uneasy about having to lie to Zhu Zheng later. Step by step, Bai Li Chongqing approached Zhu Zheng, and with a call of "Commander," Zhu Zheng was pulled back from his thoughts. Turning around, Zhu Zheng nodded slightly and first praised the reconnaissance team for successfully completing their mission. However, it was evident from his tone that he wasn't too concerned about the safety of Tianhai City. His only regret was about Army 5, as they were one of the sharpest blades in the district. The thought of this brought an inexplicable sadness to Zhu Zheng, not because of some deep emotions, but because of Army 5's spirit of selfless dedication, which made him feel a bit sorrowful. Then Zhu Zheng gestured to Bai Li Chongqing and said, "Come with me, don't be so formal, just treat this place like your own home. Let's sit down and talk." Before coming, Bai Li Chongqing had already reported once, so when they sat down, Zhu Zheng asked a question he had been eager to ask. "During your time in Tianhai City, did you encounter any promising talents?" Upon hearing this, the first person Bai Li Chongqing thought of was Zhang Yi. However, due to his agreement with Zhang Yi, he couldn't reveal his abilities. So, instead, he emphasized the potential of several other forces, only briefly mentioning Zhang Yi. Yet, despite Bai Li Chongqing's downplayed description, the cunning old fox Zhu Zheng showed a particular interest in Zhang Yi. Even though Bai Li Chongqing didn't say much, Zhu Zheng sensed something. Therefore, Zhu Zheng asked Bai Li Chongqing to talk in detail about Zhang Yi. Upon hearing this, Bai Li Chongqing's heart was filled with mixed emotions. As expected, the moment had arrived.